welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career Outreach Coordinator at the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at KU. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cheers to Careers. I'm Steve Ridinghouse, the Career and Outreach Coordinator for the KU School of Journalism. Today we are joined by 2019 grad Lauren Lanz Farrar. She's a Marketing Content Specialist at Community Brands. Welcome, Lauren.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
So you're in Dallas right now, correct?
Yes.
And when you started with Community Brands, you were in Connecticut?
Correct.
So how's that process been like for the last, almost year and a half?
Yes. So it's been a little crazy. The move to Connecticut was unexpected, but actually great for my career because it allowed me to focus more on marketing than I was in my previous position that I had out of college. And, you know, today's world is a lot more virtual, and remote work, you know, is becoming more and more popular. So I was fortunate that once I moved from Connecticut back to Dallas, I was able to keep working for Community Brands remotely.
So is your schedule pretty much set, or are you still kind of in a hybrid format?
So it's a good question. What's interesting about remote work is that we have, you know, people on my direct team. We have people on East Coast time. I'm in Central time now, and then my manager is actually in Arizona, so she's on like Mountain time. So everyone kind of works East Coast hours. So that's how we've been doing it.
So when you started at Community Brands, you were in Connecticut, or you moved to Connecticut to start working with them?
So I moved to Connecticut. I moved to Connecticut because my husband had a promotional opportunity for his work up there. But it was kind of perfect timing for me because, you know, again, I knew I wanted to shift to a position that was solely marketing focused. And so I was going to probably be looking for another position at that time anyways. And so it just worked out well that there was this marketing position at Community Brands up in Connecticut. So when I was in Connecticut, I was a hybrid schedule, and then just fully remote now that I'm back in Dallas.
Okay. And you're originally from Texas, correct?
Correct.
So it's good to be back in your Lone Star State?
It is, and there's family here, and my husband's from Kansas. He's a Lawrence County, so his family is up there as well. So we're that closer to everybody.
Yeah, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. It looks like you're involved in a lot of different things: digital advertising, email marketing, social media marketing, blogging, content creation. Have you figured out what you like to do, or do you like to do it all?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's kind of funny. Out of college, it made me nervous that I was interested in all of those different things. I thought, oh gosh, maybe I should get really good at just one thing. But I still just enjoy doing all those things. I get to be creative and do a lot of writing for everything that you just mentioned. I think, I don't know, I think I like doing all of the content creation, marketing activities.
I know you mentioned writing. I know here at the J School, we talk a lot about writing as kind of the core of what we do. Do you feel comfortable writing for various audiences and various platforms?
I do. And that's what's I think great about what the J School taught me is we did projects in class, and I got some internships through J School friends that taught me to write for different audiences. And I think one of the core lessons that I got from the J School was how to write creatively but succinctly, which is so valuable because I have, through internships and full-time jobs, now I've worked at, you know, an advertising agency. I've worked for a construction company. Now I'm in software as a service. And, you know, construction, software, those aren't things that I'm expert in, but because of the writing skills that I have, I can work across all these different industries because that's the skill that is always going to be valuable no matter what.
And Lauren, you talked about like the internships and different companies you've worked for. Can you talk a little bit about like the different work culture? Have you kind of, I know you're 3 years out of school, almost 4. How important is that to you to kind of find that work culture that suits your style?
Gosh, that is so important. I've worked at companies, you know, like I've worked at an ad agency. I had an internship there, and that was interesting. It taught me that I almost don't prefer that kind of environment because it's so deadline and client driven, which is fine. And there's always going to be deadlines, but I was glad that I had that experience because it taught me, oh gosh, I do not function well when it's super high pressure all of the time. So, I like the culture that I have, the work culture with my current company and my current team, because I think everyone understands that there needs to be a work-life balance. And, my boss will say, hey, if I send you an email or shoot you a work message outside of normal working hours, it's probably because I just had an idea that I didn't want to lose.
Right.
But do not by any means feel the need to respond to me if it's outside of working hours. And I appreciate that. I think it's important to find a company that you can set boundaries with, whatever you want those to look like, and then the people in that company and on your team will respect those boundaries.
No, well said. And I know you said your husband's from Lawrence and you're recently married. Has your idea on work-life balance changed since you've been married in terms of like priorities and how you kind of set the boundaries from work and outside of work experiences?
Yeah, I think it has. I think, before I might have been checking my email or my team's messages outside of work hours or on the weekends. And I've tried to become slowly but surely less attached. It's hard because this is probably something that some people are like, I can't do this because they can't stop themselves from checking it. But I have the Outlook mail app on my phone, and I've learned to force myself to not check it outside of working hours because I need to be more engaged with life around me, life outside of work, with spending time with my husband. So, it's interesting. That's another part of remote work where if you're kind of chronically online, you have to teach yourself when to not be online.
No, well said. And so what was kind of your plan when you graduated from KU? Are you doing now what you kind of envisioned you would be doing when you graduated?
I am now, yes.
Okay.
And, I think the job that I had right out of college was an executive sales operations assistant. And I was doing marketing activities in that position, but it wasn't 100% the dream job of it wasn't all marketing, wasn't 100% related to what I thought I'd be doing, down the line in my career. But I think it's definitely okay to have stepping stones, especially when I was right out of college. And I knew I liked the culture that company had. So right out of college, I wasn't 100% of the time doing what I thought I might want to later on in my career, but now definitely all marketing, which was my goal.
How important do you think that is early on in your career to find out what you want to do? Because I know like the students I advise, a lot of them want that dream job right away and they feel disappointed, at 22, 23 years old. If they don't get it, they feel like, okay, I've got to totally restart over. What kind of advice would you have for those graduates to be, you might not have to find that dream job right away?
Yeah, I think, it's easier said than done, but I think just take a deep breath. Do not put so much pressure on yourself to get your dream job right after graduation. Everyone has everyone has jobs that help further their career, but are not necessarily their forever jobs. You don't have to stay in the job that you first get out of graduating from KU. You don't have to stay with them for years and years and years. But I think if you can find a job that is, relevant to what you want to do, maybe, like what I did, it's not 100% of the time everything you always wanted to do. But if it's related, you're going to, get a paying job. You're going to get real world experience, which, will help get something on your resume that someone hiring for your dream job will love to see.
And during your time at KU, I was looking at your LinkedIn profile. Looked like you stayed busy. I think ad club, marketing club, alumni leadership board, just to name a few. How did you find time to manage all that in addition to being a student?
I think it helps that for the KU Ad Club and KU Marketing Club that they their meetings were right on campus, and I didn't live far from campus, so it's not like I had to drive 15, 20 minutes to go somewhere to get to them. And I think a lot of times they also had meetings in the evenings. And so I think it's just a matter of prioritizing that. I think realistically, you can carve out, 30 minutes to go to an ad club or a marketing club meeting, and then just head to the library straight after if you have homework or a project or something like that. And I think also just making sure you go to the meetings you can go to. Just because you skip one or two events in a row doesn't mean you can't jump right back into it.
And I'm not sure with your current job if you're involved in like hiring talent, or you probably know what your company's looking for. I mean, how important is it to kind of have that balance between the academics, the clubs, and a little bit of work history? I mean, do you look for that in an employee?
I think, it's interesting. I think it's nice to see, it could be nice to see on a resume, but I think even further than just what's written down on the resume, if you get involved with some of those clubs and they go and directly interact with a company, or like I know one of them, I can't remember if it was the ad club or the marketing club, maybe both of them does some trips to different ad agencies and whatnot. I think if you can speak on that in interviews and talking with hiring managers and things that you learned, or insights that you gained from that, I think that is also just as important to be able to speak to it.
Okay. No, great advice. And I know you touched a little bit about, you don't always necessarily have to find that dream job. Do you have any other advice for the soon-to-be grads, say in December, or the grads from the May of 23 class?
I think just stay connected to KU and to the journalism school. Steve is always a great resource. KU has a mentoring platform where, especially when you're early on in your career, it's totally okay to need guidance, or to want to ask questions about, hey, can you just reach out to someone, say, hey, can you take a look at my resume and see what you think? And I know that there's a job board specifically for KU alumni as part of that mentoring platform. So, stay plugged into that. Go on Facebook and find your local KU alumni group. I've definitely done that, and it's fun for all the different sports watch parties, but also just for networking and to stay plugged into the KU network.
No, again, great tips, Lauren. Hey, I appreciate your time. I know it's been fascinating. I was familiar with your work as I started in 2015, so I think I was here maybe your freshman or sophomore year. So yeah, it's been fascinating to kind of watch your career take off and the work you're doing with community brands. So, hey, cheers to your careers. I don't know if you've got your KU mug handy. Awesome. Again, thanks, Lauren. Appreciate it.